So I'm really delighted to be with you and to be able to talk about strategic planning. And I want to make it very relevant for you. So I did, I was very intentional, which is a word that we are in our business, but also with our clients. We teach them how to be intentional in business, how to be intentional as leaders, how to be intentional in really all areas of their life. So I brought two key things for you. I brought you a strategic plan framework that you can work through, and we're going to just pencil it in right now for your business, because you all know your businesses, right? You know your businesses. You should be able to just pencil it in, I hope. You might get a little stuck, and that's okay, because then it might give you some good insights as to some work that you might need to do yourself, or maybe with some of your team members, depending if you have team members. So I brought the framework. The second thing I brought is a model. And it's a model that we use within our own business. It's called the Mckinsey's 3 Horizons model. I'll walk through it with you. I love it because it changed my thinking about how we do business. So we're a relatively small business. I've lost track. There's probably now 20, I think we have about 27 employees. We're all over the country. We have affiliates who are selling our programs now all over the world. So we've grown really tremendously in the last several years, and that was all very intentional. So I'm going to walk through kind of how we grew to help you put it into your concept and your business as well, because I think it's helpful to have a real story. The other thing is, as I go through this, I do have strategic planning, as Matt mentioned, for very, very small businesses. I mean, honestly, businesses of one, very, very small not-for-profits, all the way to, I have worked with DuPont to develop their 2040 strategic vision and plan. Now, DuPont is a massive global organization, and their bold goal, let's call it, is to feed the world, that everyone, every single person on the planet by 2040 will consume a product for their own nutrition that is made by or owned by DuPont. Okay, the reason it's a 2040, which in today's world we hardly, we don't do strategic planning past like 2 or 3 years, and it should be updated every year. Well, DuPont owns Pioneer Seed Company, and they are growing a type of corn that the hybrid of the corn, when they plant it and they germinate and they morph this seed from one year to the next, to the next, to the next, they want the corn, which today cannot grow in the desert, to grow in the desert. So we will be able to plant corn in the desert, and they have figured out a way to germinate that hybrid of corn, and it will take so many years until we get to 2040. And by 2040, they believe they'll be able to do it. It's impressive. That's a huge organization. That's huge research and development. It's a huge budget to do all of that. That's not how we live here in the Summit necessarily. But you may touch that in some point, because DuPont has a very large presence in Gardner and in St. Louis as well. So they're here right in our metro area. So let's just start off with a couple of basic concepts. So my title, as you heard, is Chief Mindset Officer. People do have a mindset about strategy, right? So mindset is either strategy is good, and we embrace strategy and we use strategy, or, like I know about it, but I'm not so good at it, okay? So let's just see where you're at. This is like, yay, good, I'm great at it, I feel good about it, and this is like, needs some help, okay? Yeah, so just kind of look around the room. Yeah, so we have kind of some, yeah, but I don't have a lot of like, yes, I don't have a lot of that, right? So I'm gonna make it really super simple. I have a lot of funny stories about the importance of small businesses writing business plans. Well, business plans are strategic plans. It's the strategy of how are you going to grow and build your business. But I will say for me, and I am a serial entrepreneur, I just love business. I've owned many, many businesses over the years. I've bought businesses, I've created businesses, And I would say more than 50%, I did not have a strategic plan, which is a huge mistake in my world today. I understand strategic planning today. It was just hard. I was just too busy doing business to slow down to think about business. Today, I see the value of slowing down to speed up. If I just slow down and think for a period of time, 10 minutes, which I do every morning, and before I even touch my email, which is not always an easy thing to do. But when I start my day, I sit for at least 10 minutes, if not more, and I decide what's the most important thing I need to do today to move the business forward. If I don't do that, and I'm guessing you don't do that, if you don't do that, what happens?
Chaos.
Yeah, and speak, what does the chaos look like? What is happening? What is happening in your normal days?
A lot of busy work.
Yes.
You know, crises that are really not crises, they're just immediate versus.
Yeah, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, can you do this? Hey, email, chime, ring, you know, and you're like, oh, yeah, I said I was gonna send that, and I need to send that, and somebody's like, hey, I got a question for you, and you're like, well, that's a quick question, I should just answer it. And now you're being pulled by the tasks of the day, and at the end of the day, do you wonder to yourself, did I do anything of any impact today?
Reactive versus proactive.
Right, reactive versus proactive. Okay, so now let's just get a sense of it, because until you see how your current reality is, can you choose, because it's not easy, choose to do some strategic planning. So just think about it, just jot a little note in the side margin, what percentage of your day is reactive and what percentage of your day is proactive. So what percentage of your day is reactive? And maybe share your number at your table.
Look.
What percentage is proactive?
I think honestly, currently, 90% of my day.
Because I work where I work, I'd say about 80% of mine.
Okay, so what, oh, you guys are talking. What's your numbers? Can you share just quickly around the table?
20.
Yeah, so they range from what?
Yours is 20.
I said mine was 90% reactive, 10% proactive.
Okay, so we have 90-10.
Mine's less.
Okay, so yours is
20 pro and 80.
Proactive.
Okay, so just at this table alone, we have a 90-10 and an 80-20. So 90-10 reactive, 80-20 proactive, 80% proactive. So just that range. Okay, anybody else? Yeah, what's your table?
In the morning, it's 20-80.
Okay, 20% reactive,
Yes, 20%
proactive. Okay, all right. Because the first thing in the morning, you're reactive.
it takes me a while to get going.
Okay, yeah, that's a good awareness, right?
Yeah,
And then once you get going,
yeah. Well, I'm also a night owl, so
As am I.
that throws
I'm a night owl too.
a wrench into it too.
Yeah, that makes a difference. Okay, so, and your range here?
80 proactive, 20 reactive.
80 proactive. You're in the business of mindfulness.
Okay.
Okay, so,
That's what I teach.
right?
She's helping me.
Yeah, but that's beautiful that you actually are practicing, right? Because we can talk about mindfulness, but practicing it where you have actually recognized that you are proactively choosing to go about your day. Beautiful, beautiful, yeah. Okay, so how about your table, where you're kind of at right now?
I said I was 50-50.
Okay,
I am in sales, so it's very important I'm proactive, but I do have a good account manager, which helps me be 50-50. I need to actually change that to 80-20,
okay,
being proactive,
Yeah.
but there's still just stuff I get caught up in.
yeah. But what if you were strategic in that you could carve off that 20% that would be 80% more business,
That would be my goal.
right?
Yes.
And then carve out the, let's say, the 30% of tedious kinds of things that you can figure out a way that someone else could do for you, right? Because for me, the stuff I procrastinate at, the stuff I'm not good at, or the tedious stuff can chew into my day. But also, I found that the tedious stuff that I procrastinate at that takes me longer to do, like what somebody can do in 20 minutes, takes me like 3 hours, if I'm not good at it. But if I hired somebody to do it for 20 minutes, I could save a lot of money. because of my own time invested in whatever the activity is. We know this, but until you live it, until you feel it, can you really choose to make a flip? Okay? All right, so what your table range?
We were pretty high on the reactive.
On the reactive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of a 75 or 80 reactive, but we're also pretty much, most of us in a very service tended, I mean, we deal with numbers, we deal with help and
Yeah.
students.
So customer service
Yeah.
is reactive, right? But yet at the same time, you're growing your businesses or you're contributing to your businesses in some way, even though the role that you play is a reactive role in a way. Customer service can also be proactive. Imagine this. See, this is my strategic thinking. Imagine that customer service was so proactive that you had no reactive need, that it was a customer experience that was so positive. You see? And now we're flipping it around so that you can enjoy the proactive aspect of customer service versus the yikes, my phone's ringing, somebody's got a problem and I gotta deal with it kind of customer service, which is more traditional. See, that's the strategy. The strategy is how do we get our phone, how do we get customer service to not ring? People don't need us in that way because things are running so smoothly. It's not that they don't need us, period. It's they don't need us because things are running smoothly. That's the strategic question. How can we get that to happen?
Yeah, one of the things you said was, when you find out who to use, who does it better than you do, like, and that's when I flip.
Yeah.
When I've come awake enough to say, I didn't call Burton to do this for me.
Right, because I'm spending too many hours
Right.
messing with it.
Right.
That's not an easy thing to do when you're a startup business because it's all money in your pocket. It's coming in that pocket and it's going out that same pocket. That's just very different than having a slush fund set aside, that savings account to be able to hire out or outsource any of that work. Yeah, okay. So now let me go into the question of, think of a time that in your mind, you were very strategic. Think of a time that you were very strategic. So let's define what does strategic even mean? How would you, when you think about strategy, when you think about being strategic, what's the words that come to mind?
Having a plan.
Having a plan. Okay. Following a plan, having a plan and following it, novel idea. What else?
Being intuitive.
Yes, and intuition is sort of that gut feeling based on experience. So intuition, sometimes we're like, well, what is that? Well, that's based on experience that I feel this way, right? And then what do you do with that intuition?
Bring it into the strategic plan with knowledge of things that have happened before and make sure that you do not, you either follow what your intuition is telling you or keep from doing it, depending upon how the experience happened before.
Yeah, so you can hear all that experience word. So I've seen this before. What does it look like? We perceive, we associate, and then we decide. Because the association is, last time it didn't go well, or last time it went great. And then I decide accordingly. So we perceive, then we associate, and then we decide. Okay, yeah, that's intuition. Anybody else? What's the word that comes to mind?
Intentional.
Yes, intentional. I use the word purposeful a lot. So when I'm purposeful and intentional about how I spend my time, I'm typically very strategic. If it aligns with my vision. Right? Right, so first, in order to be strategic, you have to start with a vision. Where are you going? Because I can't be strategic about getting there until I know what that looks like. And some people aren't comfortable or believe that they're good at envisioning or the vision process or even goal setting from a visionary standpoint. How many think you're a visionary? Those hands should all be up. If you are self-employed, you are visionary, right? Or you are a small business, you are visionary because you have decided this is the picture of my life. And this business supports that. That's visionary. But see, it's kind of like, I'm not really that, I'm not the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks of the world, so therefore I'm not visionary. Now, you're very visionary if you know how you want to run your life.
Another word, innovative.
Innovative, yes, innovative. The innovation comes after the vision.
Right.
So it's a vision, now I'm creative, innovative in getting there. Okay? All right, so now that we have that foundational information, right? So when you think about, when was the last time you were purposeful? When was the last time that you were creative or innovative to get to a goal? Somebody have a story. Think about, I'll let you think about it, I want you to tell a story at the table. Okay, think of a time that you decided you wanted something, you decided you were gonna go somewhere, you were going to do something, right? And you figured out strategically how to get there. So talk at your table, pick a story, and share just one story, we're not gonna have to all, share a story.
Do you?
Yeah.
Like my projects, we just finished a huge project. Scheduled deadlines, to wrap it up, to plan a breakfast, which will be our backtracking, what needs to happen when, what are our goals. I feel like that.
You have to know what strategies and then apply them. Time, strategy, always be open.
Mine's not so much a story as
Sure, yeah, so you're thinking of more like general, I think, yeah, which is great, absolutely, that is a strategy of yes.
reaches business owners rather than just like out of the move, ways that I can introduce the brand out without just getting thrown in the trash. So, you know, kind of two ideas at once.
That's right.
Well, then how do you get there?
Try to
I had an opportunity to, I said, position my mechanic business, become more originated recently. Went through that process. Just in the last month, we did, got my license. And everybody I talked to would say,
I have a huge life transition.
well, it's, I mean, it's not related, you know, I'm in the tax business now, so
Financial services.
it could be perfect.
Right, yeah.
You know,
Very
it's kind
intentional.
of,
Yeah,
at this
very
moment, kind of a sideline, but it could be significant.
hard sometimes.
And then just that you don't strategically.
TV all the time.
What is it?
Yeah, and I think their purpose is, their purpose, it's just for me, a number of people that are good, I think their purpose is just not all online. So I'm going to talk to many people that talk to them.
Well, the other thing I've been trying to do is like,
They don't have any
strategy.
to call up.
I'm kind of at that age where I'm ready to shut not to things out, so I'm ready to go back to revisiting, just. You guys,
Simple words, phrases that scripts.
I started doing that.
Here.
So it brings up that tip. Especially over the next helping people with the documents. I'm in the fun somewhere else, but somebody got a question or need something.
It's easy to read on the film. I do what I want to do.
Yeah. And you're intentional about how you live your day. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna interrupt you. I know there's some good stories, and this is what I like. I love it when you're telling good stories. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull us back, and and now put some framework around some of what I overheard, just phrases that I overheard. I even heard some things like, well, I was just lucky. Kind of right place, right time, kind of like, I had this, so it started, mostly stories, started with, I had this goal, right? I wanted to do this, or I needed to do this, right? And then you figure out the plan, right? The more strategic, the more efficient the process to have worked through the plan. So the more strategic, typically the more efficient, okay? The more, which efficient then would mean saves time, saves resources, saves money, and so forth, saves energy and heartache also. So that's all a part of it.
Work smart instead of hard.
Yes, yes, right? And if we can do that, like imagine working less and making more. Oh, there's an idea, right? Right? But again, when we're sort of running around a little bit chaotic, we're wasting resources versus if we just do 3 things. I know Garrett loves this, 3 things, right? And didn't do anything else that distracted us, how much further ahead would we be? So let me just sit with that, because that 3 things matters. There's a psychological impact to having 3 things. Not 2, not 4, 3. Okay? So just let that sit for a second, okay? All right, I'm gonna talk a little bit about, I'm gonna just touch on some key aspects of strategic planning to give you, again, a couple of tools, and then I'm gonna jump into the plan itself. So you see on the right, kind of about the only graphic on this cover page, is that vision, current reality arrow. I draw this, probably 10 times a day. 10 times a day. If I'm not drawing it, I'm reminding people about it, or I'm speaking to it. So the CR stands for current reality, right? The vision is how you want things to be. I have a vision, I have a balance wheel. Many of you have been in my programs before. I have a balance wheel of all areas of my life. I write down goals in my spiritual life. I write down goals for my relationships. You know what a balance wheel is, right? It's kind of like the spokes, you see them. I have a balance wheel that has all of my children's names on the balance wheel. So I have 5 children, they're all married. So I have 5 more spokes with my children's spouses. Okay, I have a separate balance wheel for my 9 grandchildren. And you might go like, whoa, that's a lot. Here's, my life is a busy life, right? Anybody not busy in this room, by the way? Yeah, I'm not saying I'm busier, I'm just saying I'm busy. You're busy too. If I don't pay attention to one of my children in particular, because she doesn't call me, she's just that kid, right? A couple of them call me every day. Some of them call me 3 times a day, right? Some I call once a week. And some I wouldn't hear from unless I reached out to them. And it would be very easy to get busy and reactive. And then say to my husband like, hey, have you heard from Carrie lately? And he's like, well, no. Well, when's the last time you talked to her? I do not want to have that conversation. I want to be able to say, yes, I just talked to her, and here's what's going on in her life. Right? I don't even talk to my kids every day. That's not the picture, okay? What I'm saying is, in any aspect of our life, when we get pulled in one direction, I love my work. It'd be easy for me to just work all the time and ignore the family. Okay? It'd be easy for me to love on the family and ignore work. Unless I'm mindful and purposeful about all areas of my life. Okay? So my current reality is so on a scale of 1 to 10, current reality, rate your current business. Just how you feel about business, your career, just put a number there. On 1 being low, 10 being the best that it can be. So just put a number, little side number. I'm not gonna ask you to talk about it. You might feel like in this moment it's a 3 because of something that just happened. You might feel it's an 8 or a 9. You're like, oh man, we're just hitting our stride. Feels good. Anything. All right. So it doesn't matter what the number is.
1 to 10?
On 1 to 10. 1 being low, not good. 10 being the best that it can be. So let's say you give your current business a 7. A 7. Okay. Here's the strategic envisioning question. What would make it a 10? What does a 10 look like? Because if you said 7, you know that there's something better. It could be improved, and you usually have that in your head, and you can usually list it. Well, it would be this, this, and this. Okay, now you're starting to think strategically because you created a vision of what 10 looks like, and you've identified the 3 things that it would take to get there. Loosely, that's a strategic plan, loosely.
Like 3 more client calls?
That could be a task toward, is it just really 3 more calls? Or is it 3 more clients, which is maybe 10 more calls?
Okay, I see where you're going.
You see? So what, is it 3 more clients or is it 3 more ideal clients? Is it 3 profitable clients?
Okay,
Or is it 3 not very profitable clients? You see? Right, let's be very intentional and purposeful in who we want to do business with because we're drawn toward the picture. If we're not clear, we're just all over the place. Okay? Yes?
clients who have me in mind,
Clients who have you in mind.
yes.
Okay, and so my strategy for clients who have me in mind is who has a need, it's need money now. Who has a need that has the money that's ready to buy now?
Right,
That should be everybody's model. Who has the need? That's a part of our plan is somebody's like, we should go after this. Okay, let me just do a quick check. Do they have a need? Do they have the money? And is there a sense of urgency? If there's no sense of urgency, we could chase them for a couple of years.
That's
You
true.
chase them. You know who I'm talking about, right? So my need money now serves me very well as a strategy for who? Well, actually, it's a strategy to eliminate the chase, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got 1 to 10, you've got, what does a 10 look like? So think about vision. So here, I want to just run through this bottom half. Your vision of, and I'm going to talk about it from a business, but these could be for all aspects of your life. I'm going to talk business, okay? So what's the ideal picture of the business? What does business look like? Who do you want to do business with? What do you want to be doing in the business? What would you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy the selling? Do you enjoy the servicing? Do you enjoy the back office? What part do you ideally, now we don't have that choice always, but the question is how do you want it to be so that you can put your energy there, right? And start to identify what are some of the things I need to let go of to create capacity. Because ultimately it's about capacity, okay? All right, so how do you want it to be? And design it in every possible way that you can think of. That's the envisioning process. For me, I want to travel where I want to travel to. For me, I want to travel with my husband. I don't want to go alone anymore. It's not fun. I don't want to be the road warrior who goes into the hotel, flies into the airport, goes to the airport hotel, goes to the convention center attached to the airport hotel, does my program, goes in there. I'm like, yeah, I was just in Nashville. And people are like, that's so cool. I'm like, I saw nothing. I saw nothing. I never left a building because everything was on walkways and it wasn't so cool and I'm not traveling that way anymore. Do you hear it, right? So how do I want it to be? I want to go, I want to enjoy it. I want to go to cities I enjoy. I want to work with people who I enjoy working with. There are people who call and they say to me, hey, I got your name from so-and-so. I heard you could fix my people. No kidding, I get that call once a week, no kidding. Okay, and it's different language, and I'm like, really? Well, let's talk a little bit. And if they don't soften, I'm just not a good fit for them. Not a good fit, right? I'm not gonna go fix somebody's people when this person who's calling me is the person who comes to work. That's a whole other thing, that's just called experience. Over experience I've learned. Yes, we wanna hire you right now, well, that's lovely. That's lovely, okay, but you're not in my strategic plan.
The greatest line is, you don't have to sell me.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me. We're good. Okay, so I'm gonna just run through this bottom part, and I'm just gonna touch it because I wanna go into the plan. Think in ideals. Don't settle. So here's the thing. There's a difference between strategizing and planning. Planning is, I know how much money I have and I'm gonna spend it in this way. Strategizing is, I want to have this much money, and I'm going to strategize how to get there, and then I gotta figure out with the resources that I have and that I'm about to generate how to get there. So strategy is strategically being purposeful about a goal, where a goal with a plan is when you already have the resources. You're just saying, well, this is what I'm gonna do, this is how I'm gonna spend money. That's a plan, that's not strategy, okay? So how do you want it to be? And be bold and then back off. So be bold about it and then go, well, that's not gonna happen today, but it's energizing. Your vision, what 10 looks like, should be something to look forward to. If you're like, well, we're gonna sell $1 million this year, and the primary thought is that's a lot of work, that's not something to look forward to. But if I said $1 million in revenue is touching 100,000 people, who I know that 90% of the people that we touch, we can change their lives for the better and positively impact them, I'm gonna be motivated not by the $1 million and not by the 100,000 people. I'm gonna be motivated by knowing I can make a significant impact in the lives of one. And that lights me up. Whatever your light up is, you need to have what lights you up. If it's not in there, it's not gonna work. And it's hard to move forward, okay? And that's what that squiggle line is. This is when you don't know when you're wandering. The clearest path from current reality to vision is straight ahead. I know where I'm going, I know what it's gonna take to get there, I don't have it, but I know I know where I'm going. I'm going to Chicago, I wanna see the museums, I'm gonna drive my car, and then I'm gonna get on the train, I know what I'm gonna do. But it's like, I'd like to take a vacation in some like sort of big city in the Midwest. Well, that could be several different cities, you see? Now I'm like, well, let's go over here. No, I don't really like that city. Well, let's go try this city. Well, I don't like that, and now I'm wandering. But clear and direct, you're gonna get there faster, right? Versus meandering, okay? What gets measured gets done. I am not a numbers person, and I fought the measurement piece. I was like, I don't know, that holds me accountable. I'm not sure I can hold myself accountable. I don't know, right? Feels like a big number, right? But what gets measured gets done. And then we can do benchmarks along the way, but if we don't put a number to it that's measurable or a way to measure it, then how do we know we're making progress and how do we know when to celebrate? Right? If you think about it, and I think in baby steps, but if you think about that toddler who's crawling, when they, someday I want them to be a mature, grown-up adult, right? Someday, self-sufficient, mature, grown-up adult. But right now, I just want them to go from crawling to standing on their own, pulling themselves up to something. We're gonna celebrate that, right? Because that's the next step of a mature adult. But we got a long way to go, right? But if I don't celebrate those baby steps, I'm gonna be exhausted parenting this child, right? I'm gonna be critical about, well, hurry up, get yourself going. What are you doing for college? And the baby's like, what, you're speaking words, I don't know what you're saying. But you see, but that's how we are sometimes with ourselves, right? We don't celebrate along the way, we instead say, look how far we have to go yet, and we wear ourselves out, okay? All right, so what gets measured gets done. Double or triple dip wherever possible, okay? If small business is your target market, right, small to medium, let's say, in the Lease Summit community, you should be diligent in being a participant and visible in the chamber. You should be diligent in that, okay? But if it's national organizations with multiple offices outside of the Kansas City area, then maybe this is not where you should spend your time, for the majority of your time. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be a good citizen and be a part of the community. It just means you need to be purposeful in where you spend your time. Where's your target market? Go where they are, right? If banking is my target market, I may not choose to come, I can come to the chamber, I'm gonna meet bankers, right? That's gonna be good, right? But if I go to the banking association meeting, that's better. You see, more people in the room, more likely for me to run into somebody who has the need, that has the money, that's ready to buy today. You see, that's strategic. That's me using my time purposefully and wisely. So I like to double or triple dip, doing more with less. The mindset of abundance versus the mindset of need. If you are in a mindset of need, we need business, and you don't have a strategic plan, you will definitely wander towards success. If I take that squiggly line and I stretch it out, I could be so much further ahead, being purposeful. But instead, I'm like, I need the money, so I'll take this little project. And I've been there, I've done it many times. And then I'll take this little project, and I'm rewriting projects every time, and that takes time and energy. instead of repeating the same project, but maybe I do this talk over and over and over and over and over. And I don't have like somebody calls and says, can you do it? And I go, yep, I'm ready. That's so much better than hours of research and study and preparation and graphics and, flow and thinking and stories and all the things that it takes to prepare to be able to do something like this. Versus just showing up and go, I got this. I one time, was at the Kauffman Foundation, and I was facilitating a fast track program for the Kauffman Foundation for startup businesses. And there was chaos in the, I don't know if they call it like the forum area, but it's basically the big area where all the tables are and the speaker and the stage and all that. There's some chaos going on. The tables were all filled, people were eating, but I could see the chaos. My group wasn't going to start for an hour, but I happened to be in the area and I had nowhere to go. So I was just kind of hanging out, waiting until my program was supposed to start. So I go just like, hey, how are you guys doing? Something's happening, what's going on? And they say, oh my gosh, our speaker just canceled. Okay, now I have a decision to make, right? Do I tell them I'm a speaker or not, right? And I'm like, so, what are they gonna talk about? It was some genetic biology, so and so and so. Okay. Not my area of expertise. So I just simply say, I'm a speaker. I can give you 30 minutes and I can speak on how scientists can get locked onto their scientific studies and create blind spots to other discoveries. Would that be of value to you? And they're like, oh my gosh, like, yes. And so I stepped in and spoke, right? Meanwhile, I'm watching the back, on the back side of the forum, and I see my people are arriving. And I'm kind of like, I gotta wrap this up. So nice to visit with all of you. And then I go, and they were like, I'm gonna just step in, but I'm able to do that because I've done that before. I couldn't have done that on the fly otherwise, right? But that's the ability to be able to do something over and over and over. If you reinvent the wheel every time, it's just too hard. It's just too hard. Okay, so mindset of abundance versus mindset of need. I think to myself, if I say, and you know this language, if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to something else. Is this the right yes? Is this the right yes? So I make sure I say that to myself, and if I didn't need the business, would I say yes to this? And I can still say yes, but now I'm at least saying yes purposefully. That matters. All right, and then how can you be more purposeful? That's a big question. How can you be more purposeful? By saying no, letting go, and even doing a start doing, stop doing. What do you need to stop doing that doesn't align with your plan? But first we need a plan, all right? So turn to the next page. I'm gonna walk through the framework, okay? You should be able to fill this in as I go, all right? So let's just start not with the whole vision, but I'm just gonna start with the vision. What's the vision of the future of your business? Just jot a few key phrases. Make it visual and something that you're looking forward to. What's the vision of the future of your business or your career, however you want to think about it? But what's the vision? It's the big picture, it's the future, it is not today's reality. You could write a strategic plan for all areas of your life. You could write a strategic plan for even just your health life. I mean, you could fill this framework in a lot of different ways, and my email's on here. If you want me to send you this digitally, so you can just have it, and then you can change the boxes around, you can fill it in, you just ask and you can have it. Okay, so that's the big picture, okay? What's the future, okay? So for us, our not vision of the future, but bold goal for the future is to reach 2 billion people. 2 billion people in the next 3 years. Okay, 3 years. That's a lot of people, right? But we just developed an online program, which we've been talking about. I couldn't do it one program at a time and travel around and reach audiences big enough, but I can do it through an online delivery system, okay? And we're tracking for it. crazy, but we're tracking for it, okay? My aspiration is not the number, but it's the lives that we're gonna touch and the lives that we're gonna change for the better. That's my aspiration, okay? The bold goal is the 2 billion. That's the big number. That's a little overwhelming to me, but I can feel it and I can see it, and it would be. So my language for envisioning is, wouldn't it be cool if this happened in my business? And that helps me just to say, what's your goal? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. You know, is it a number? Is it like, I want to reach 100,000 this year, like in revenue, right? Just 100,000, okay? Or 50,000 if you're starting out new. Some of you are starting out very new, so 50,000, okay? Make it a stretch, okay? Don't goal set for what you already know. Goal set to make it exciting so that you can benchmark and you're going to be drawn toward it the clearer you are about how you want it to be, because it's just easier to make decisions and choices. Okay, so whatever your vision is, identify 3 key areas that will help you get there. 3 key focus areas. So you could say, I need to focus on, I'm going to use a real simple example, financial planning. I'm a financial planner, okay? I'm going to focus on two key markets, and then I'll tell you who my third is. But 2 key markets. I'm going to focus on couples over 50 that have different last names. Right? Why? Versus anybody can use my services. Right? Because anybody could, right? But what do I believe about people who are over 50, who are married, who have different last names?
They've been married before, they have other family, they have other holes out of where their finances would be.
Yeah, so it's probably complex, and probably if they have different last names, they're also separate, right? And they need help, right? And if they're in their 50s, they have their sea legs under them as far as their career versus having no money to save or no money yet to invest. Okay, again, I'm just creating a picture. Okay? That's very clear, so that when I come to a networking event, I can speak very clearly about, here's one of my focus areas. Right? So my second one might be newly divorced women versus men, because I prefer to work with, whatever it is, right? So it's just whatever you want in your business, the more focused you are, the easier it is for me to refer to you. If you're like, well, anybody, I'm like, nobody pops in my head. But when I said couples over 50 that are married, didn't somebody pop in your head? Don't you know somebody like that? Right? See, you have a name right away and you're like, oh, and here's the funny thing. When I say that, you think, oh, I should introduce her to, right? But if I go like, I'm a financial planner and I help people invest in their financial future and I can work with anybody, who comes to mind to refer me? Kind of blank slate a little bit. Unless someone in the parking lot mentioned to you they have a problem with their finances and they're top of mind. You see? But that might not be your ideal client. You see? That's also why, which by the way, Kelly, you did an amazing job in your introduction. Very clear on here's who we work with, here's the problems that we solve, which is beautifully done, and it's like, okay, now I know. And I can think of like, oh, we need to have a conversation. She made it so simple. She made it very clear. Right? Just well done, very well done all the way around. Okay, so 3 key focus areas, all right? And then often people will say like, they'll create a focus area, like I'm gonna focus on this target market or this target market, and then the third for me is operational excellence. So I have like financial sustainability, financial growth, but I always have an operational piece in addition to my growth piece. And the reason for that is I can grow and be a mess in my back office, and that's gonna get messy. So instead I wanna make sure, again, intentionally, that I don't lose sight of back office while I'm over here churning, right? Oh, by the way, I'll pay my taxes later. They'll wait, right? And then now I've got a nightmare of a bookkeeping system and I haven't been doing a good job. So I want operational excellence, I want my business to run smoothly and function appropriately in addition to growing. So I have 2 growth and 1 operational. Again, very strategic, so I don't lose sight of it. All right. Then, often, what we do is we decide, like, here's my market, and then we do a plan. I pause and I have a vision for my market. This works for me. To envision, like, if I'm gonna work with this particular market, what does that look like? Who would I be talking to? Who do I need to meet? Who do I already know? I start to envision it. If I jump right to what am I gonna do, I start making plans for things without recognizing that my network is already strong in that area. Why would I reinvent the wheel? So I start with all those questions about, all right, what's my vision? And I think, wouldn't it be cool if, which this is my vision, and it came, I remember planning it, and I remember thinking, okay, that's really bold, and that'll never happen, and then today, this is our reality, which is, I want my phone to ring 3 times a day with teed up referrals, and I decide which ones we're actually gonna do, and then I'm gonna help somebody else build their business by having a strong network of people that I can hand the business off to, and help them build their business. That's what I wanted. Now, when I wanted it, it was far from reality. Today, it is our reality, and I love it. It makes me feel good, and then we have to re-goal set, right? But today, that's how we function. Our phones ring, people know about us, they know what we do. Sometimes they ask for things that we don't do at all, which is still fine. I'll try to find them a resource, but most of the time, they know what we do, and we just refer them to a partner if we're just not able to get to them, depending on what it is. But we are very intentional and purposeful with the work that we do right now. Because of capacity and energy. Got those 9 little grandkids, I wanna have time for them. Otherwise my balance wheel's gonna be off. That's strategic, that's my life plan, okay? Okay, so the second thing, so this is the framework. You kind of know the rest of it. I like to have long-term and short-term goals. I like to have a long-term goal, but then I also like to have benchmark goals. I like to have benchmark goals. So here's my long-term goal might be annual number. But my benchmark goal is, what does that mean by quarter? And then what does that mean by month? Which means by week, what do I need to have? I like that because I'm motivated by being off. I'm not motivated necessarily by being ahead of the game, but I can be negatively motivated, like get yourself going, because you're behind. And I like having that, okay? You have to know what works for you. Okay, so I like long-term and short-term, and then the strategies are basically the how. It answers the how. Well, how are you gonna do that? And just keep asking yourself, how are we gonna do that? Who would we need to know? What do we need to do? Where would we need to be? So I ask myself the question, what if? So it's a single point of reference. What if I could make one call and get business? Let me ask you that. If you could make one call and get business, there is probably someone that you could call that comes to mind. One call. If it was like make or break, you have to make a call to save your business today, there is probably somebody that comes to mind. Why don't we work like that all the time? Not so much under pressure of or else. It's not the or else, it's just strategically thinking, why are we randomly calling? Why don't we call the 1 or 2 that is ready to buy today? You see? That's the thinking, that's the strategy, okay? All right, then you see under the key focus area, under vision, you see core, emerging, and blue sky. This is the model that I love working with. This works very well for us. Every business has a core part of business that is sort of your normal day-to-day business, okay? So we have a couple of key programs that is our core business. We can do them all day long. We don't have to rewrite, it's like the core part of the business and it just churns, right? Okay, so that's my core part. And I don't necessarily, so my office manager, she runs core. I don't run core. If you have a leadership team, leadership should not run core. Your second tier, your mid-level management should be trained to run core because you're busy in emerging. So the second tier down is emerging. Emerging are the businesses, the markets we're trying to get into that make us bigger than we are today, that will become core. They will become core. So I've got to spend my time developing the market, determining the pricing, networking, doing all the things to get into emerging. I've got to get all the processes cleaned up and churning so that I can throw it over the fence into core. But core is gonna pay the bills. Don't mess with core, okay? At some point, core, in the core business, a portion of core becomes obsolete. And then when I throw emerging over into core, it's a new product line, but it's more relevant today. And the one that kind of falls off the wayside is no longer relevant. It's got a low margin and low profitability. So I'm looking at that and saying, well, that we need to drop that product aside. It seems like it's just dusty and old, and there's just not a demand in the marketplace anymore. So we're paying attention to that. Make sense? So figure out, if you don't know, some of you are pretty new businesses, figure out what core is that can churn and pay the bills, right? And just get that into a wonderful flow, right? And it's kind of like the plate spinning thing. Okay, I'm gonna spin the plate, and then I can go over here and I can set up my stick, and I can set up the plate, and I can get it going. Then every now and then I go, boing, and then I just step back over here, and I'm setting up my stick, and I'm getting the plate, right? And I get this one going, it's a little wobbly, right? But this one's still sort of like, bing, and then I step back over here, I'm focusing here, I got one little eyeball over there every now and then, peripheral, right? But that's gonna pay the bills. This is gonna grow the business. You see that strategy? So if you turn to the last page of your handout, I wrote it out in greater detail. So here's those 3 strategies. Blue sky is truly the, wouldn't it be cool? I mean, truly blue sky, back in June of last year, blue sky to us was, we had a curriculum that I absolutely loved, but it was a curriculum that was video facilitated. So we would play a video, there would be a facilitator in the room, people would be in the room, and we would work them through a 4-day curriculum. When COVID hit, that was no longer a possibility. So we put our heads together and we said, wouldn't it be cool if this program was self-guided, self-directed? Self-guided, self-directed. And my partner said, that can't be. You have to have an expert in the room to explain this to people. I'm like, we don't have to explain anything. It's explained in the video. All they have to do, so if you've been in a book club, you know how book club works, right? You read a chapter, they work in different ways. You read a chapter, and then you get together. We don't know anything about, I mean, we read the chapter, and we come together, and we just go, what did you think of the chapter? What did you think of the chapter? What did you learn from it? What were your insights? We took our video program, we digitized it, we put it into a book club model, self-study, so that college students all over the country could go through the program to manage their stress. But I don't have to be in the room with these 100,000 college students, because I can't be in all those rooms. We had to strategically think, well, how can we? Wouldn't it be cool if we didn't have to be in the room? We can't multiply ourselves faster. We were gonna hire facilitators. We were gonna do all these Zoom programs. How about if they just did it themselves? Do we need to learn how to run a study club? No, we don't need to learn how to do that. We'll just give them a guide. We have a discussion guide. Ask this question after chapter 1. And here are 5 more optional questions if you don't like that first one. Right? That's how we're going to reach. I've been thinking about that for a while. I just didn't have the time to sit down and get it done. And then we got the opportunity it was more of a sense of urgency because we had police departments calling us, we had hospitals calling us, we had teachers calling us. We work with the Capital City Police in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you heard, they had a suicide yesterday. It's just, but that's we're trying to help them. We work with Montgomery County Police, who is right there in DC. They're the subsidiary to DC. We work with teachers unions all over the country, but particularly in DC, different areas of the country that are hurting in a really bad way. Through this self-study program, because I can't get there like I need to, but I know we can help. So I'm driven by that. Okay, that's strategic. Okay, I didn't know how we were going to do it in the beginning. It's like, I don't know, we just got to help. We got to figure it out. Well, what do we have? Let's look at what we have. Well, we got some video content. It's pretty good, but it's not designed in the way that we need to deliver it. Well, how do we need to do that? Okay. What if we didn't have to be in the room? What if we could let them do it themselves? What if it was just as effective, them doing it themselves and having a professional facilitator in the room? What would that look like? And then we designed it accordingly. And then we had to let go of it. Like, let's just see if it works. Right? The Better Business Bureau is rolling it out to all of their businesses all across the country because small businesses are hurting. It's a growth mindset program. It's a growth mindset program. Right? Teachers right now are so concerned about going back to school. Masks or no masks on those little kids. Right? You're gonna do a hybrid system again? Well, they had burnout in October last year, right? October, they were burnt out. Right? The effect of our mental well-being, right? The effect. We need to be paying attention. You need to be paying attention to your families as well. Make sure everybody's okay. Have a conversation. What are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to? Okay. All right. So I gave you a framework. I gave you a model. Some things to think about as far as vision, current reality. Do you feel like you have something to work with? I'm watching time, it's just about 7 after. Is this helpful to you? Do you feel like you have something to like now sit down and think about, right? Set the vision. Think about what, if you could do 3 things to get you there, what 3 things, not 15. So one other thing. If I were facilitating your company's strategic plan, I would let each group, the more diversity you have in developing the plan, the better the plan will be. Even if you're a sole proprietor, get a group of friends together and just let them banter with you. Not your yes friends, your truth-telling friends. You guys know them, right? My yes friends are like, oh yes, Denise, you should do that, right? Well, would you buy it? Well, no, I wouldn't buy it, but you should do that, right? I'm like, no, shoot holes in it. So that I want to shoot holes in the room versus out there in the marketplace. And so get your friends together if you're a sole proprietor and just talk about business. What do you know about my business? What should I be thinking about that I'm not? Because my vision, my awareness is so limiting, as is all of ours in any area, that Garrett asked me first, like, well, Denise, have you thought about this? I'd be like, whoa, no. And I'm mad at him, because it's a good question, right? But I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Because he cared enough about me to ask a tough question to make me think. Okay? So get your truth tellers together, play with it, right? Start to fill in the boxes. Put some measurables to it so that you have some short-term goals to celebrate and to work through, right? Look at what your core part of the business is. You can get that plate spinning and just let it spin there so that you can go over here and focus on what's next. What is that? Maybe it can't fully sustain you yet, but you intended to, okay? But it's pretty hands-off and it's pretty repetitive. We call it wash, rinse, repeat. That's what we say all the time, wash, rinse, repeat. Volume and velocity, wash, rinse, repeat. So if we start doing new things, we're gonna wash, rinse, and we can't repeat. We're gonna wash, rinse, cream rinse, color protector, making this up. But whatever those products are, it's like, okay, that's too much. Wash, rinse, repeat, volume, and velocity. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Okay? But if it's too complicated, then it just takes up more of your time and energy. Right? Okay, questions? Yes?
Maybe a way with your employees is to say, so what do you want to talk about? As simple as that to get it started.
Yeah. Or not so much so, it's like giving them even something to direct their thinking.
Yeah.
Right, so let's give them a question that directs them to some extent. That's okay, I mean, it's okay to go, what do you want to talk about? We're gonna be all over the place, which is okay too. That's okay too. I worked in a group just before you today that, I don't know what the incident was, but it's a residential children's home for kids that are incarcerated, but it's a residential home for kids who are in trouble. And they had, all I know is it was a major incident and they were distracted. So the question I asked them to get us started, because they told me about it just straight away, is tell me what the voice in your head is saying about this incident. What is the voice in your head saying about what's happening? And it could be saying, I wish I would have whatever, okay? Or we should have whatever. Or, I mean, so there's basically about 4 categories. It's kind of the fight or flight thing. Could be denial, could be that, like, that's not my problem. Sorry it happened, but not my deal, right? But the important thing is to hear from your people what's going on in their head. But in this case, with envisioning, what is fun is to just, if you were all part of our team, and even if you were my friends around the coffee table, I just feel like, let's just make a list of everything we can possibly think of that aligns with what I want to do or what my abilities are. And then let's take the one that makes sense. The one that could be core, if there isn't a core, for example. And let's just work on one at a time, because there's 45 good ideas up there, but we're gonna end up with 3, but I'm gonna start with 1. Otherwise it's too much. Okay? Matt's on his feet, that's that nonverbal cue over there. So I'm just gonna say thank you. If you guys need help, honestly, just email me and just say, hey, would you mind talking me through something? I'm happy to do it, okay? I would just email and ask. And I mean that sincerely. I'm happy to talk you through it if you're struggling with something, because it's sometimes just hard to do it on your own, okay?